Will you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome to the June 20th, 2022 Board of Aldermen meeting. And if I may, every once in a while, there's a thing where the mayor will be on vacation and the board president resumes the pro temp term of the mayor. And so we are stuck here looking to nominate a board president for this evening's meeting. Alderman Talbot.
I'll nominate Alderman Whitcomb.
Alderman
Second.
Whitcomb. There's a second. Are there any other nominations?
Move to close the nominations.
Thank
Second.
you. Second. All those in favor of closing the nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those in favor of electing Alderman Whitcomb as your chair for this evening, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
That's what I call railroading.
Well, thank you and welcome, everyone. I look forward to pinch hitting tonight for Alderman Dunges while he pinch hits for the mayor. So up first, we have minutes of the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay, let's go.
To approve.
That was the quickest meeting in
I've ever
history.
had.
Did I hear a second?
I second it. It's a viable motion.
I would really, really like to follow through on that, but I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve instead.
So moved.
Second.
A motion to approve it has been seconded. Any corrections in the minutes at all? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We are on to outside the rail. Up first, we have Ronald Hemingway.
Hennessy.
Hennessy.
Nope, that was a mistake.
It is
on my
Hemingway, correct? Hemingway, perfect. Will you, sir, have the floor?
I have a favor to ask. 7 years ago, we brought to the attention to the city, VCIL, the Rutland office, brought to the attention of the city the fact that the police station really should have automatic doors so that people can get in and out of the police station without assistance. And pretty much everybody seemed to agree at that particular time. However, since that time, nothing has really happened or changed. And before you refer this to committee or whatever, it's been brought up in the CARES committee, which is the Commission for Accessibility Improvement in Rutland, which basically has not met for the last 6 months or so. Another thing to note is the city also may be violating the Vermont open meeting law because there's 2 committees that always meet at the police station, and that's the Traffic Safety Committee and the Police Commission. So these, how are people supposed to participate in these committees if they are not able to get into them? That's why I'm just asking you to consider using some of the COVID relief money for this this project. I understand that these doors are very expensive. However, I also believe that if you make incremental improvements in your facilities here and there, it will make a world of difference, and it will actually attract people to Rutland. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. Any questions from members of the board? Alderman Neary.
Chief Kilcullen, I understand we often operate with fairly big surplus in the police department. Would it be possible or applicable to use some of that surplus money to fund at least the doors to start? I know we have 88 entrants in committee for ARPA requests, but this seems a lot smaller, and I like Mr. Hemingway's sort of let's do incremental changes. Is that possible? Do you have a budget for facilities?
We typically do have a surplus, and we'll certainly have a sizable surplus this year. I don't know, I'm not sure at the end of the year when the books close if we have to set aside some of that surplus for this purpose specifically. Might be a question for the treasurer. But you know, again, this particular issue, it was a request. It didn't include the doors per se. I think you're asking for sliding doors, but you know, the gentleman's right that there's no automatic door opener, whether it's a sliding door or otherwise. There's no automatic door opener. There's an elevator once you get in, but there's no automatic door opener to get in. But yeah, to answer your question, there's a surplus. I'm not sure what action needs to be taken to earmark that for this purpose.
Alderman Gillen.
Couldn't we just simplify and just do a door like we have downstairs here? We just, instead of a sliding door?
I think that
for a minute?
I think so. Yes. As I said, that's not in place right now, but I think it is a solution that would allow access into once you get into the. It have to be at two doors. It'd be the exterior door. Once you get in the exterior, there's an elevator that brings you up sort of half of a flight, and then off the elevator brings you to the lobby level, which would require another kind of automatic door.
So it's not a simple fix here.
Well, I don't think it's terribly complicated, but again, it's not something that our electrician could sort of wire up.
Right.
It would require someone who has that sort of specializes in this sort of issue.
Other questions? Alderman Attari.
Unless you were going to speak to it at all for the finance thing. As Alderman Neary said, and some others, it has been referred to the Finance Committee to pay for those doors using the COVID relief money. So that is in committee, and so I do expect us to talk about it. Hopefully sooner than later. It'll be up to the chair of the Finance.
And just to speak to that, so this is an active referral in the Finance Committee that we do intend to approach. I also want to bring the board's attention to, Mr. Hemingway does have a letter within your packet. If you haven't read it, please take the time to do so. And I think you raised another important point that might help for clarification for the city, which is that the care committee hasn't met in a period of time. Now, I do believe that there is a transition in who the point person is for that. And if I might actually look to HR Director Frazier, who was formerly doing that, but I believe those duties are transferring from you to Mark. Mark's last name I can't remember. Sadekirski. So there's a change happening from Judy Frazier to Mark. Say it again. Sadekirski. So we'll hopefully work to coordinate and get something out, and then get the committee meeting on a regular cadence again. But thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention. Anything else from anyone? If not, we are still outside the rail. Is there anyone else here to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Hearing nothing, we're on to communications from the mayor.
One thing.
Acting Mayor Dunges.
So I've been mayor for all of 12 hours, so I have nothing else except for this. on behalf of Mayor Laird, I ask you to remove from the table Police Commission nomination of Elise Headlam.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded to remove from the table the Police Commission nomination of Elise Headlam. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed?
And I move to circulate the ballot box.
We have a motion to circulate the ballot box. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
All right, Clerk Heck will send that around.
You need one? Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. All
He's got a
good?
pile of them.
Excellent. All right, so as that is circulating around, we will go to additions and deletions to the agenda. Alderman Franco, I know you needed your general committee report added. Is there anything else we want to add? Attorney Bloomer, I didn't know if there's anything you'd love to delete. I guess not. So I'll entertain a motion to add to the agenda Alderman Franco's general committee report.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that has been added. This brings us to reports and letters from department heads and officials. Up first, we have Brennan Duffy, BIAP funding recommendation. This is page 1 of your packet.
Good evening, everyone. So as you have seen in the board packet, the Redevelopment Authority met recently to review another BIAP application request. At this point, this is the West Street Grill. We have Tim and Trevor here with us. They're the proprietors of this new establishment that are kind of finalizing the details on the business purchase and on the lease agreement. But they are going to be making approximately $100,000 of investment into this business, which will replace Little Harry's, which, as you know, has recently closed their business. So it'll be great to see that restaurant space reoccupied. They are seeking a $5,000 grant and also eligibility to talk with Heritage Family Credit Union on a larger collateralized loan. And the Redevelopment Authority has reviewed. They meet all the eligibility requirements. I'm recommending that the the Board of Aldermen authorize the $5,000 grant and the connection to Heritage, and not all of this just pending on them getting the final closing on the business purchase and the lease agreements. Trevor would be happy to talk a little bit more about their plans if anybody would be interested. Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. So my name is Tim Urich. I'm just going to underscore what Brendan said. We're very interested in helping to revitalize the downtown area, and when we did learn of the opportunity that Little Harry's was, Mr. Megan was retiring, we asked to speak with him about a business plan that we had already constructed. We had been working on this for some time. We met with Mr. Mangan a couple times, and he was very excited about our business plan. We have put together, I would say, a very comprehensive business plan with the input from Jack in terms of, strategizing. Staffing was a challenge for him. We have actually recruited staff on board already. We have a head chef in place who actually worked with and for Jack for a number of years, so he's very familiar with the kitchen, the operation. We have other staff. We hope to retain the staff that were there. We want to keep those jobs in the area and keep those folks employed. Our objective is not to have a high-end restaurant, but to mimic what Jack did. And what we said to Jack was, if we enjoyed the same success that you had, we'd be very fortunate. He's done it for 25 years. We appreciate and respect the reputation of Little Harry's and that establishment. And we seek to basically follow in his footsteps. We will change the name. We will have a different recipe, but it won't be dramatically different from what Jack did. And we hope that the Rutland community accepts us. We have a great deal of experience between Trevor and myself, and the gentleman that will be our head chef has 25 years of experience as well. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Questions from the board?
Motion to suspend the rules. Second.
All right, motion to suspend the rules, suspend seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Move to approve the application for the BIAP grant for West Street Grill for $5,000.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded for the approval of a $5,000 BIAP grant with a check to be distributed following a successful closing on the business and lease agreement, and to approve a referral to Heritage Family Credit Union for a collateralized loan in accordance with that program's policy.
And I move that whole.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions, comments, debate? Alderman Gillum.
Are you just strictly going to do dinner, or are you going to expand to lunch, brunch?
So I think initially, we want to be very prudent about what we're doing. We want to be successful. So we are going to start with dinner, but our plans are to expand to a lunch community as well. We don't want to bite off more
Somewhere
than.
Sundays, we need some stuff downtown for Sunday.
So I would like to add too, that both Trevor and I intend to be owner-operators. We are going to be working in the restaurant full-time. So we aren't going to be absentee landlords. We want to embrace the public, we want to embrace the business, and we obviously certainly want to be successful. So
I wish you all the luck, because I know exactly what you're going through, because I was there one time. So God bless you.
thank you, we appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Best of luck, guys.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you at the West Street Grill.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I am looking forward.
All right. Up next, Andrew, Planning and Zoning, 200 and 202 Columbian Avenue. We would be looking to remove this from the table.
This is tabled.
Good evening, everyone. As you may recall from earlier this year, 200 Columbian Ave was recommended to be conveyed to the Housing Trust as part of our city-owned properties program. During their title search, during their so as part of that project, it was a $3 million project to renovate the property at 194 and 198 Columbian Ave, which is property that the trust already owns. With the acquisition of 200 Columbian Ave, they were going to fold that into a much larger project that was going to be about $3 million. That's the project that was proposed to the board. As they were kind of fleshing out their project and updating the scope, they had the intention of buying the property next to 200 Columbian Ave, which is addressed at 202 Columbian Ave. During that title search, it was discovered that 202 Columbian Ave was actually two lots. It was 202 and then 204 to 208 Columbian Ave. So they expanded the scope of their project to be a $6 million project and include that land. From a zoning perspective, they're planning on combining the properties all into one so they can have more dwelling units in their total project. They're going to be going from 6 units to 10 units as the last that we knew. But we found out that 202 Columbian Ave was retained by us, and back when we did the tax sale of 202 and 204 to 208, we conveyed 204 and 208. I think the thought was that we had conveyed everything, but that didn't work out. So, so now at the end of May 31st, the City-Owned Properties Committee met, and they talked about the issues that were presented with the city attorney, and the recommendation was to quitclaim deed whatever interest that we have in 202 to the Housing Trust to kind of clean up any loose ties relating to that property. And then I'll see if Matt wants to add anything.
Yeah, that was a good synopsis. There's a few moving parts to this transaction. We've got a couple things that we're asking you to approve tonight. This particular approval is more for the charter requirement that the board authorize the sale of city property. So that's what you'll see at the end of Andrew's memo. Next or later in the meeting, I'll be asking you to approve the real estate option agreement that's actually circulating. It's a slightly different version than the one that you got in your packet, which I can explain a little when we get to that agenda item. But for purposes of Andrew's agenda item, we're just looking for authorization to sell the, whatever interest we have in 202. And we may get into this in the other agenda item, but for those that haven't, I think there was a newspaper article on it. I can't remember what I've shared with you or what Andrew shared with you to this point. But there were properties that we received by tax sale that were later conveyed to John Ruggiero through a bid process, and I think everybody thought that 202 was part of that conveyance, but it turned out in the land records that there isn't really a record of 202 being conveyed, and it wasn't really noticed until the title search was done by the Housing Trust for purposes of their purchase. So there's still a little bit of probably paperwork that needs to be done to clean up the deeds or to decide which deed will go to which party prior to the closing that we all hope will occur with the Housing Trust, because what they need at the moment is a option agreement so that they can do some of their due diligence for their funding application. And then our hope is that they'll close on all of those properties on Columbian sometime in early 2023. And I think there's somebody somewhere, hopefully from Haley's here from the Housing Trust and can speak to, if you want her to speak now, she can speak now. If you want to wait until we get to the actual option agreement, it's all sort of wrapped into one. I mean, we're going to do the motions separately, but it's up to you guys if you want to get a little bit more background. Andrew's also going to give, actually, Haley, it might make sense. I think, Andrew, next you have a memo about their new plans.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah, maybe however you guys want to set that up would be another good opportunity for her to add anything to that mix, or have folks ask her about the project that's being planned. But yeah, it's a complicated transaction with multiple parties involved and an option agreement instead of just a regular, closing within 30 days like we usually do. So some of the mechanics of those are being approved tonight, or being asked to be approved. So I think really we can go in whatever order. If there are people who have questions at the moment, this is probably germane to the agenda item that's on that we're on right now anyways. So.
Sure. So currently, we are working on this option with the city as well as with John Ruggiero for whichever properties, however we sort that out. Once we have site control, we will continue with our feasibility study, which will consist of completing our schematic designs with our architect, getting a cost estimate. We right now are estimating the project at about $6.5 million. We have to do a phase 1 environmental review, work through permitting and all of that. But as it stands right now, we plan to rehab our 2 current buildings, which consist of 9 units. One building has 4, one building has 5. Those are family units, family housing. They're larger units, 3, 4 bedrooms, as well as some 1s and 2s. But and then with 200, we plan to renovate the building as well, do a total gut rehab, as well as add a large addition. That building right now has 2 dwellings in it, but in the end, we actually hope it will have 12. So a total of 21 units in that whole project. The new units would all be 1-bedroom units, and would also be addressing homelessness, not all of them, but a percentage of them, and low-income individuals. Kind of where we stand right now.
Alderman Gillum.
I'm just trying to get the geography down here. We're talking about property from GE to the corner.
Correct. We have the 2 brick buildings,
Right.
and then the white building that the
And
city
then an
wants.
empty lot.
And the empty lot.
So Haley, will there be ample parking for those who have vehicles? Because that's what you see now, are they using front lawns, or are they using that type of thing? Is there anything in the back that will allow some
Yeah.
off-street parking?
So we do have a parking lot out back as it stands, and we would be expanding that. There
would not be a parking space for every unit. It's our experience with most of our buildings that all residents in the buildings do not have cars. We also will at some point be putting through a request. We would be providing labor and materials, but for a curb and sidewalk to be redone in the front. That would be part of the project as well, to stop people from parking there, because I know the city has deemed it as a no parking area, but.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, discussion? So, yeah.
I'm just asking for a procedural thing. We have something on the table that we need to deal with.
Yeah, so
And
this,
then you got some new stuff coming in.
yeah, so this, what Andrew has put in his memo is really the technical motion that gets us past the charter requirement that the board authorize sale of city property. And then the next agenda item that I have is really the terms on which we're, proposing to sell to the housing trust. So this one's more of a general, yes, it's okay to sell this property. And then the next motion would be potentially, yes, it's okay to sell it on these terms. And I had provided you all with a memo, a confidential memo, just kind of outlining a little bit the background of the negotiation. And I can hit some of those high points in open session, but if you wanted to have a little bit longer discussion about the arrangement, then I would suggest that we do that in executive session.
Alderman Torrey.
So I'll move to remove the issue from the table.
Second.
We have a motion to remove from the table. It has been seconded. Put all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So I guess the first piece of action potentially be to authorize the disposition of 202 Columbian Avenue via quit claim deed to the Housing Trust of Rutland County pursuant to Section 6.2 of the Rutland City Charter, and to further authorize the mayor to sign all purchase and sale related documents.
So moved.
Alderman Torrey.
I'd move that if I think we still have to suspend the rules.
Can you just remove it, or is this a
We
total?
removed it from the table. We didn't send it to committee yet.
We
so-
didn't do
Okay.
it last time. Yeah.
So, suspend the rule.
Do I have a second?
Practice.
We have a motion to suspend the rules that has been seconded. Will all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
So moved.
Thank you.
Practice.
So we have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any discussion, questions, debate on this first element? Hearing and seeing none, will all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, I think this moves us to you, Attorney Bloomer, the real estate option agreement for 202 Columbian Avenue, pages 8 through 28 of the packet.
And it's actually, I gave you a fresh copy, or hopefully it's circulated, that would replace 8 through 28 really in whole. Although there's just 2 or 3 changes that occurred since the packet came out. And I'll touch on those when I'm kind of going through the summary. But as I said in my memo, this is a little bit unique as compared to a lot of the city-owned property sales that we do, which are really we try to close as quickly as we can. And in this instance, because of the project that they're pursuing and that they really need to solidify their funding before they can purchase the property, they need to have an option agreement instead of just a purchase and sale to close at a time certain. So the option agreement is set up to allow them to do some due diligence during the next several months, and then they have to decide whether they're going to exercise the option by the end of the year, and then we'll have 60 days to kind of set up the closing. And so if all goes to plan, that will occur at the end of February or before. So we have to carry it a little bit longer, and Andrew may or may not be able to speak to this. It's his office mates that are doing some of the upkeep and maintenance. Here, there's no tenants in the building, so it's quite a bit simpler than some of our other properties that we've recently had. It's really probably just mowing the lawn and responding to any other issues that may come up with, people trying to gain access or, replacing plywood on the side of the building. So we do have to carry it for longer than what we would normally like to carry it for. We'll be responsible for it until, really the closing occurs at the end of February of next year. And there's a possibility that the deal may not get their funding. And so there's also a possibility that come December 31st, they'll be telling us we're not going to exercise our option. And, we'll be at a point where we'll probably have to remarket the building at that point. But Andrew can also speak, I think, to the offers that we got on this last round. And this, in the discussions that we've had internally, my impression from the administration is that this project is much superior to whatever else had been proposed by the other bidders. So that's why I think there's an inclination to enter into this kind of unique arrangement and carry the property for a little bit longer than we like to under normal circumstances. The two changes that are in these new documents, I had a note in my confidential memo to you about how generally we have a deed restriction, and we'll actually hear more about that on the next agenda item. We usually have a deed restriction that helps us to hold the owners to the proposal that they made at the time of their bid. In this case, my initial understanding was that would jeopardize the funding if there was any kind of restriction on the deed. But in talking with Betsy Glynn, who represents the Housing Trust, we confirmed that it's not really an issue. So we've added the deed restriction into the limited warranty deed, and we've changed one item in the purchase and sale to reflect that. So that's the change, but I thought it would be easier just to provide you with all the documents again, so we don't have to go through an amended motion to say the documents you have plus these other things. So it's really the new documents are the ones that I'm looking for you to authorize in substantially the form presented. So if I haven't confused you yet, open to whatever questions there may be. Like I said, if you want to get deeper into the terms of the agreement and how the negotiation went, or if we wanted to renegotiate, that would be better conversation to have an executive session. But if they're just standard questions about the project or the agreement, those would be fine for open session.
Alderman Torrey.
So if they do not get the funding for this, on December 31st, they will revert to us, and we can keep the 2,500, or what would be the?
We'll still own the property, so technically
Right.
it wouldn't revert. It's just that we would continue to own it. The way the contract's written, the $2,500 I think would end up going back to them. There's certain conditions where it wouldn't, but I don't think we'll hit any of those conditions. I think they will be backing out if they don't get their funding, if the appraisal doesn't come up correctly, and those are all conditions that we're allowing them to have their deposit back. The one thing that we will get to keep, which is pretty critical, is they did the legwork to find the former taxpayer, and we're able to get him to quitclaim his whatever interest he may have had stemming from the tax sale process to the city. So we're going to get that as part of the transaction, and that's a big help for title issues that we run into quite often, where folks that are looking to get title insurance when they purchase are unable to because of the basically title insurers don't want to touch tax sale properties for probably 3 or 4 years at least to let the statute of limitations run on any claims that someone might have had that it was done incorrectly, or a bankruptcy occurs and they try to claw it back. So really we will get that, but the $2,500 I imagine they'll hit one of the milestones in here to return that.
So is there a motion?
Yes, the motion would be to authorize the mayor on behalf of the city to enter into the real estate option agreement with the Housing Trust of Rutland County Incorporated in substantially the form presented.
So I'll move to suspend the rules.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Will all those in favor please say aye.
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 Those opposed,
And I'll
motion
move
carries.
the motion as dictated by the city attorney.
Second.
Right, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Are there any comments, questions, discussion on this? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll just add, as I alluded to, I may be back next meeting or the meeting after, to just make a tweak or an amendment based on when the parties get together to talk about what the deeds need to look like to clean up the title issue. So this might not be the last you hear of this for a little bit, but it's really just a housekeeping issue that'll be coming back to you. And hopefully it'll be closed at the beginning of next year.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer. You are still up, I believe, with 31 East Street, title assistance?
Okay. So as I mentioned, for the city-owned properties, we generally put in a deed restriction when we sell them to ensure that the owners, at least for their time that they own the property, follow through with the development plan that they have proposed and is generally, usually the basis for choosing that particular applicant to sell the property to. So in this case, I gave you a memo, which I won't, unless you want me to, I won't go through in complete detail, but there are two deed restriction related issues that are holding up the closing. The Kiernans are here, they're the owners currently. They have it under contract to sell, but there's two items that the title searcher for the buyer have identified as needing to be cleaned up in order to be able to issue the title insurance for the buyer. And I've outlined the two things that we need to do to clean those items up. And there's also a letter from John and Beth just explaining why they had to change what they had planned to do. So really what we're asking for is there was a conveyance from their son Andrew was on the deed at one point with them, and he needed to come off the deed in order to get financing for the home that he lives in now. So they had done that conveyance, but technically they should have gotten a waiver from the city to do that because the deed restriction says you can't convey the property at all until it's been signed off on that you've done the development plan. So that's the first ask, is just a retroactive waiver to allow, to make sure that the city was okay with that conveyance where Andrew came off the deed and conveyed his interest to his parents. And then the second cleanup item is an amended development plan. So there was a development plan on record, and Andrew and Mark from the Building and Zoning went to confirm that the work had been done. But I think Andrew can speak to kind of what they saw. It was a big improvement and probably was 90% of what was in the development plan. But there were a couple things that did not match up exactly, and in order for them to certify that the development plan was complied with, we really need to have an amended plan approved by the board so they may not even have to go back, but they can then sign off, and these two things will be cleaned up for the sale. So, Andrew, I don't know if you have anything you want to add now or just wait for questions. The Kiernans are here and can answer any questions as well.
So when we went to the property, the development plan had initially stated 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and there was an addition on the back side of the house that was supposed to come down, and they were going to make a attached garage, if I'm correct. So when we got to the property, it was 4 bed, 3 bath, and they ran into some asbestos issues, so they ultimately decided to keep the rear addition and didn't make the garage. After having the discussion with Matt, I think we both felt a little bit hesitant to move forward because we don't know where that line is in terms of what's considered small and what's considered big. So something we didn't really want to push the envelope on. So that's what we saw on site. It's still, major improvement. All the work came out great. Just a little bit of a deviation from the plan.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll move to approve the retroactive waiver of restrictive covenants of 31 East Street in the form presented, and to authorize the zoning administrator and building inspector to sign the waiver on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. Is there any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Would all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll also move to approve the amended development plan for 31 East Street as prescribed.
Second.
As presented, I'm sorry.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. Any questions, comments, debate here? Gillen.
I think for people at home, need to understand that that piece of property was in real bad shape, and that is now a beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous on that corner. He really cleaned it up, and I think we should get rewarded, and we should pass this stuff and get them moving on the property, so somebody can live in it.
Thank you, Alderman Gillen. Any other questions? Alderman Torrey.
I 100% agree with Alderman Gillum. I do think, with John being here, we should make him get up and talk a little bit more. But,
If he wants to.
he did an excellent job. I've been inside. It's an amazing job. It's
Yeah.
well worth what it took.
I took the Zillow tour.
So did I.
I'll brag all you want.
Well, John and Beth, now is your moment if you want to brag to the audience at home. You guys did a great job.
He did, absolutely.
Are there any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion. It has been seconded. But all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to DPW Commissioner Rotondo. First up, we have a request authorization to participate in Municipal Roads Grants in Aid Program, page 36 and 37.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'd like to request the board to authorize the mayor to sign the letter of intent to participate in the SFY 23 Municipal Roads Grant and Aid Program. We've applied for this type of grant here for the last 4 or 5 years. These are good grants. We've been successful every year. If we apply for this one, we're in line to receive a potential grant of $33,500, and we're going to use that money to correct erosion issues around the city. The city's share is 20%, which is equal to $8,375, and that would be achieved through in-kind work that DPW crews would do.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
I have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. But all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Motion to approve the request to participate in the SFY 23 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program.
Second.
And to authorize the mayor to sign.
Yep.
The seconder is good with that?
Yes.
Awesome. So we have a motion. It has been seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the letter of intent to participate in the fiscal year 23 Municipal Roads Grants and Aids Program. Is there any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, you are still up. Request authorization to amend engineering contract, Allen Street Culvert Replacement Project, pages 38 through 44.
Okay, so I'm requesting authorization again for the mayor to sign a contract amendment in the amount of not to exceed $49,458 with the original design engineer for this project, who is Dubois and King. And the contract, this amendment would be to perform construction phase engineering services, which is administration and inspection, again, for the Allen Street Culvert Replacement Project. So the construction contract has already been awarded to the Belden Company. Approval of this amendment will allow the design engineer to oversee this project all the way through to completion. This additional work would be funded through the $3 million
structures bond, which was approved by voters on March 5th, 2019.
I'll move to suspend the rules, take the issue up tonight.
Second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded to suspend the rules. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I'll move to authorize the mayor to sign the contract amendment in the amount not to exceed $49,458 with DuBois and King to perform construction phase engineering services, administration, and inspection for the Allen Street culvert replacement project.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any questions, comments? Alderman Tory.
Thanks. Jim, how often do we have outside help doing the inspection and administration? Is this a normal thing, not a normal thing? Should it be a normal thing? Why are we doing it in this case, not other cases?
Well, I mean, there should be contract administration and inspection on every project.
Yep.
And we typically, we either amend the design contract and have the design engineer do it, or we send out another RFP to do the inspection. But it's typical. It's typical for all projects.
So this is normal to do this,
This
even
is
though it's an
normal, and
amendment, it's normal.
And actually, this is the second amendment on this contract, because DuBois and King was hired to design all the structures in that $3 million bond. And so Amendment 1, the board already approved last year when we did the Grove Street Bridge improvements, and we had DuBois and King personnel out there. So you can expect that we're going to come back and ask for an amendment for the last few structures that we have in this $3 million bond. We really need to have ears and eyes out there every day during construction to make sure it's built properly. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Treasurer Markowski, Treasury Report, May 2022. This should have been.
I'll move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file. It has been seconded.
I think that she's requesting some signatures, if you look
No,
at,
not for the report.
oh, that's the report, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion. It's been seconded to receive and file the Treasurer's Report for May 2022. Would all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And up next, we have Treasurer Markowski again. Approve and sign Moon Book Temperature Improvement Project, pages 45 through 59 in your packet.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. With all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll move to approve the loan documents for Moonbrook Temperature Improvement Project in the amount of $126,000 and circulate the document for the Board of Aldermen and Treasurer to sign.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just so the board is aware, there's two separate things, two separate pages. City of Rutland by, they would sign under that. And then, of course, the treasurer would sign on the bottom. So there's two separate
sign
pages. Sign both.
All right, so you're going to have 2 pages coming around. Please sign both. All right. So this is going to lead us now to Recreation. Tyler and Shelley, we have a request for an RFP. It's pages 60 through 83 of your packet.
Evening. Kim is away. She is on vacation. Sounds like the mayor is as well, so hopefully having a good time. So she has given me something to read, so I'm just going to read it. URSA grant award to the City of Rutland Recreation and Parks. The URSA grant is the Enhanced Recreation Stewardship and Access Grant that the Rutland Rec applied for Pine Hill Park. And was awarded $79,407 for trail remediation. So it's rebuilding old trails that they built years ago, so 2004. So we're requesting access or authorization from the mayor to sign the final draft of the URSA grant when presented. And we are also requesting authorization to move forward with the RFP for the Pine Hill grant
to support the scope of work in the packet that has been, I believe, provided to folks.
Alderman Nick.
Everyone excited to approve this one, so I can use these trails. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
A motion to suspend the rules. It has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Neary, I know you're excited. Would you like to do the honor?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, but motion to sign and approve. Nope, that's a different
Number
one.
two.
Number two.
Authorized to move forward with the RFP for Pine Hill Park grant to support the scope of work.
Nope, the
Sorry.
first
This?
We would entertain a motion for authorization for the
There it
mayor
is.
to sign the final draft of the URSA grant when, or as presented.
Yep, that's the one.
Second. Second.
Any questions, comments, debate?
Oh, my Lord.
Got you guys. Thank you.
1 second.
Wait a minute.
Questions, comments, or do you want to say anything to this before we vote on it? Okay. Would all those in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And we're also looking for authorization to move forward with the RFP for Pine Hill Park grant to support the scope of work.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or debate? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I crushed that.
A no.
That was very excited. So also I'm here to just kind of give an update on the Main Street Park project. So last week, NBF was awarded the design and engineering process for the Main Street Park project. We had a preliminary meeting with them this last Tuesday, and their hope is to start all engineering and concept design beginning of August. They're kind of got people in and out in July, so the hope is that they're going to get going on it in August. Hopefully have bids ready by late fall, maybe end of October and beginning of November, to try to, capitalize on, people getting done with projects going into the next year, seeing, some good feedback on that. So the start, best case scenario would be winter, spring, depending upon, these folks that put the bid in to see where they're at. And we, in chatting with Kim, we'd like to refer the Main Street Park project to the Recreation Committee
Second.
going forward.
We have a motion to refer. It has been seconded to the Recreation Committee. Any questions or comments about the referral? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Is that it?
That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very
That's all
much.
you got for me. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Attorney Bloomer, we are going to move your executive sessions to the end. Before moving ahead to the reports of standing committees, so we don't forget to make this announcement, Elise Headlam has been confirmed to the Police Commission by a vote of 8 yes, 1 no, and 2 not voting.
Two not here.
So they're not present.
How do you not vote?
2 not present and not voting. So congratulations, Elise. So we're on to reports of standing committees. Alderman Talbot, Community and Economic Development.
All right, so the Community and Economic Development Committee met on June 14th, 2022. Members present included myself, Thomas Franco, Sharon Davis, and Chris Satori. Others present were Mike Dungis, Carrie Savage, Tom DePoy, Mary Markowski, and Brennan Duffy. The meeting was called to order at 5:34 p.m. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss reauthorizing the funding mechanism for the Business Incentive and Assistance Program, referred to as BIAP. Brennan Duffy gave a brief history of BIAP, which was created in 2015 as a way to leverage solar revenue to support future business investment and job creation. Funding was authorized through fiscal year 2020. A micro-business emergency loan program was created using BIAP funds in 2020 to help local businesses impacted by pandemic shutdowns, and the BIAP funding mechanism was only extended through fiscal year 2021. The initial criteria to receive a BIAP grant was reassessed in 2017 and found to be too restrictive. New requirements were established, a $10,000 minimum investment or the creation of 2 new full-time positions, and remain in place today. Brennan shared a list of 29 grants awarded since 2016. He stated that the Rutland Redevelopment Authority Board feels the program is well utilized and should continue in its current form. Alderman Franco suggested that we need more specific criteria for evaluating the success of the program. Alderman Talbot pointed to the growing balance in the BIAP fund and advocated for investing those funds in local businesses sooner rather than later. President Dunges pointed to the rapidly increasing costs of doing business and questioned whether or not $5,000 should be the cap on an individual grant. Alderman Attore pointed out that each year we have put more funding into the program than we invested in local businesses. Discussion of potential future modifications to the BIAP grant program continued, though there was a strong consensus that the program is a valuable one and that the city should continue to fund it. Alderwoman Davis made a motion to reauthorize the funding mechanism for BIAP through June 30th, 2025. The motion passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
The motion has been seconded. Any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
The meeting adjourned at 6:18 p.m. Following the meeting, Treasurer Markowski worked with Assessor Katie Langlois to clarify that BIAP funding calculation is a combination of 50% of the solar lease revenue and 50% of the solar tax revenue. The calculated funding for the BIAP for fiscal year 2022 is $80,498.
Very good. Thank you very much, Alderman Talbot. All right, this takes us to Alderman Neary, Charter and Ordinance.
Yep, the Rutland City Charter and Ordinance Committee met on June 9th. Members present, Chair Neary, Alderwoman Taddeo, Alderman Franco, others present, Mayor Lair, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman DePloy, Commissioner Sean Sargent. Neary called the meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. The first item on the agenda was establishing a framework for the Cannabis Control Board. This was a follow-up meeting to the formal approval of the local Cannabis Control Board by the Board of Aldermen. Attorney Bloomer began by reviewing the resolution establishing the Cannabis Control Board and the general rules and regulations. The committee discussed the various components, including section 15 and 16, which relate to the period in which the board will reapprove local licenses and the voting power of the chairperson. Overall, the committee agreed on periodic review and approvals and allowing the chairperson to vote. The committee voted unanimously on a motion to adopt the resolution in substantially the form presented. And I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Are there any questions, comments, discussion, debate? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
The meeting adjourned at 6:16 p.m.
And Alderman Neary, would you just make sure you get a copy of that to Clerk Hack?
I sent an email. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. This brings us next to Alderman Franco, General Committee.
The General Committee met on June 13th at 5:30 p.m. Members present included Alderman Franco, Savage, Whitcomb, Taddeo, and DePloy. Others present included President Dunges, Alderman Neary, Treasurer Markowski, Alderwoman Davis, Mayor Allaire, and I believe Administrator Strniste as well. I needed to add that. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. Chair Franco began the meeting by reading the original board motion, which was to set aside $90,000 to $110,000 in ARPA funds for the technology upgrades to the Alderman chambers. The General Committee was to discuss the RFP for this project. Reference was made to guidance provided by Attorney Bloomer, which was to clarify that ancillary topics, including soundproofing materials such as carpeting, could be included as part of the scope of the original motion. President Dunges noted that he would not be making specific technology suggestions, but would provide general guidance on features. He also pointed to some of the work that would be needed to adopt portions of Robert's Rules for electronic remote meetings. A motion was made to adopt an electronic meeting policy set forth in the latest version of Robert's Rules, to be amended as needed by the Board of Aldermen, and the motion passed unanimously, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Any comments, questions, debate on this?
So I'd like to make one small amendment after speaking to Attorney Bloomer tonight, just to amend it to direct Attorney Bloomer to research the various options available for an electronic meeting policy in Robert's Rules, and to provide a recommendation to the board at our next meeting.
Second.
So we have a motion to amend. It has been seconded. So voting on the amendment, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, the amendment carries. And then a motion to accept the full motion as amended Any comments, questions, discussion, debate? Would all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Oh, Attorney Blumer.
Oh, just a real quick question, Alderman Franco. Did you get a sense as to, I guess, the scenarios that the committee wanted rules for? So would this be to, allow remote participation at all times? Would it be if there were a scenario where the board agreed that they would do that, the rules would apply, or?
The committee didn't discuss any specific scenarios, but the general intention was to provide a hybrid format available for most, if not all, meetings, but we didn't discuss that. So
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just finish up here. President Dunges also pointed out that hybridization of the chambers would require both physical and software solutions. Such solutions would include audio optimization materials, including carpeting, soundproofing panels, and a mini split. In addition, President Dunges suggested the RFP make specific reference to an acoustic assessment to be completed by the vendor. Alderman Neary referenced special dollars for municipal building weatherization that could be leveraged. However, Treasurer Markowski noted that the police department may be using the single allowance for such assistance. Several comments were made with reference to the need for soundproofing. Alderman Franco agreed with the suggestion, but cautioned the committee from being too specific with design requests. Mayor Allaire and Alderman Whitcomb agreed, as being too specific in an RFP can limit the number of responses and make it more difficult to meet the intended objectives. Alderman Neary added that the chosen design should prioritize accessibility, including closed captioning and podium placement. And Alderman Franco inquired about PEG TV compatibility, and President Dunges agreed the system would need to be compatible with PEG TV's data viz system. The RFP will include this criteria as well. In total, 3 RFPs will be drafted and released in the coming weeks. The first is system integrator for audiovisual technology for the chambers and conference rooms, 2 being for the carpeting, which is for soundproofing, as well as the 3rd being for the mini split. The committee chose to separate these RFPs to avoid additional costs that may be incurred by choosing one vendor to provide for the 3 needs. Alderman DePoy suggested waiting to complete carpeting last, as he would prefer not to cover the hardwood floors in the chambers. President Dunges suggested that the acoustic assessment be completed first to confirm if carpeting would be needed for audio optimization, and the meeting was adjourned shortly after 6:15 p.m.
Thank you, Alderman Franco. Any questions, comments before we move on?
I just have a question.
Absolutely.
So the desire for this is hopefully more that the public has an opportunity to participate than us not showing up. I guess that's a statement I'm making. I would be concerned that we feel like we take advantage. I just don't feel like going to the chambers tonight, so I'm going to, because I think we work better as a unit when we're in place as a unit. And I just want to state that.
Thank you, Alderman Davis. Alderman
Yeah, and
Franco.
if I can just add, I absolutely agree. I think at least my understanding, and I know a lot of folks agree in talking, the priority here is to ensure that we're making this space as accessible as possible to the public, including being able to go back and watch recordings and, really provide that accountability and transparency. And so I agree, that's the #1 priority here. But I also think it adds some value in that if, for whatever reason, someone's out of town one night, I'd much prefer them to be able to participate as opposed to completely being gone and us lose that representation. So definitely don't want to make habits out of it, but certainly agree completely that priority should be that. Yeah.
Alderwoman Savage.
And I just want to add to it, also would make it easier for like the state of Vermont to participate, someone from up there, and even present to us something. So it thought of hybridization for that option as well.
Alderman Gillum.
And I think, because I've been through this last week, I was in quarantine, so I missed a lot of committee meetings and meetings. So if we had something that I could come into and still participate, that would have been great. But unfortunately, we haven't got that right now.
Very good.
But I do agree with Sharon. It shouldn't be a crutch where we don't show up. You know what I'm saying? We really need to be in person as much as we can.
Certainly. Thank you, everyone. This brings us to reports of select committees. Up first, we have Alderwoman Taddeo, HR Committee.
The Human Resources Committee met on June 15th. The topic was fire officer pay scale and fire officer personnel policies. Members present were Alderman Franco, Alderman Talbot, Alderman Taddeo, and Alderman Whitcomb. Others present were Mayor Allaire, President Dunges, Alderwoman Davis, Human Resources Director Judy Frazier, Chief Lovett, Treasurer Markowski, Attorney Bloomer, and Seth Bride. The meeting was called to order at 4:30 p.m. The meeting opened with Attorney Bloomer providing an overview of the proposed revisions to the Fire Department personnel policies relating to officers included in the memorandum distributed to the committee. Alderwoman Taddeo inquired if Juneteenth could be considered as a paid holiday for the fire department. There was a brief discussion regarding this proposal. Mayor Allaire indicated that this would likely be a discussion at a future time with the union. Attorney Bloomer reviewed with the committee the bullet point summary of proposed revisions outlined in the memorandum provided. Chief Lovett spoke to the revision contained in Section 5 regarding reverting to policy of 4-hour overtime minimum for callback for officers, which is the same policy as the union. Chief Lovett clarified the revision related to Section 6 relating to order-ins for special events. He noted that increasing special duty pay would be passed on to the sponsor of the event requiring services. Seth Bride spoke to Section 8 of the proposed revisions relating to accrual of sick time. Chief Lovett noted that unlike many professions, there is no option for light duty for firefighters. Alderwoman Davis inquired if the option of short-term disability existed for those in the fire department. Attorney Bloomer noted that there currently was not a short-term disability option, which is why the total amount of sick time allowed for accrual is high. Alderman Whitcomb made a motion to recommend to the full board approval of the revised personnel policies for the officers or the City of Rutland Fire Department in substantially the form presented. The motion was passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any comments, questions, debate? Alderwoman Davis.
So if I may, I spoke with Judy again in regards to the short-term disability. And my thought process is that currently what happens, and correct me if I'm wrong, if an employee is out, not necessarily injured on the job, but out, they're allowed to use their accumulated sick time. So we're paying that employee to be out, but we're also paying an employee to cover that person while he's out. So the taxpayers are paying 2 salaries for 1 position during that time period, which is fine, I understand that. The opportunity for the short-term disability is that it kicks in within 2 weeks. So the city would not pay the employee to be home, only the employee to cover, which would be a savings for the taxpayers of the city. So I just would encourage maybe HR or the city attorney to look at leagues of cities and towns or whoever we do to look at some short-term disability to see, what the cost savings could be to the taxpayers, because we wouldn't be paying twice out of the same pocket.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. Any other comments? Alderman Attari.
Thanks. I agree with Alderwoman Davis on that. In the places that I've worked, they haven't offered short-term disability because it seems to be too expensive, worth the risk reward or the benefit, cost benefit analysis doesn't play out. That being said, here, we pay out sick time when people leave, and that ends up being a sizable chunk, particularly for the fire department. And so, in the calculation that I have, wouldn't get paid out sick time. In any of the places I've worked, that's not a thing. You get paid out vacation time, even up to a cap. So maybe it makes sense there, cost benefit. Here, where we pay it out, we need to include that part in our calculation. That if we're going to do short term, then maybe we don't need to pay out or give so much in sick time. There's a balance there that has to happen for the savings for the taxpayers. I agree.
Thank you, Alderman Attari. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Director Frazier.
After talking to you, I was just thinking, in regards to it, I think it's definitely important to do a cost analysis, because you still have to use your sick time before you get short-term disability. So we're still paying that sick time out. So it would depend on whether or not you want the city to pay for the short-term disability and what that would cost us, because the policy can be very high or reasonable, depending, because you'd have to have a policy for all employees.
Of course.
So I think it's important to do a cost analysis to determine if doing short-term disability, really the benefit outweighs people using the sick time that we've allotted. Plus, because they're most of the time it's a union contract, And how do we negotiate that into all our union contracts as we go along? So that, you know, that sick time's embedded in there. It's hard to take away once it's there.
If I may. So is there a policy that states that an employee has to use their sick time? So I think in my world, if I'm going to be out for greater than 2 weeks, even though I have sick time to bridge me to that 2 week, my sick time I don't have to use anymore, disability kicks in, the short-term disability. Is there a policy that says we have to use all of the sick time first before disability would kick in? Because then it would make no sense to do.
Yeah, we don't have a policy, but they basically, most of the policies I'm seeing on short-term disability want the employees to use their sick time, if they have it allotted to them, first, before short-term disability will kick in. And it's not a requirement to provide short-term disability.
Of course not.
Yeah, so, you know.
I was just thinking that depending on the big picture, that I think because we've had, historically, we've had employees out for an enormous amount of time. And I also think it tightens the string, that a physician cannot just say, unable to work. If you're on short-term disability, there's some other rules and regulations that require you to do X. And so I think it kind of closes that abusive door as well, you know? So that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Whether it works, I don't know.
And I think you guys were just saying the same thing
Right.
about, I think Judy was saying that they would still use their sick leave to bridge the gap to whenever the sick leave kicks
So the
in.
disability would
So
kick
it might
in.
be 2 weeks worth of sick leave, which is what you described.
Right.
But they would still be, you know, accruing some sick leave and using some of it. And then to Chris's point,
Right.
if they're not using it for short-term disability, then we probably would be wanting to make a proposal in negotiations that they not accrue as much, because they end up usually getting paid out at the back end if they don't use it. So,
Right.
yeah, it's something to look into for the
Thank you.
next
I
contract.
appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Attorney Bloomer discussed with the committee the proposed officer wage scale. Alderman Talbot made a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the current pay scale as presented for the current officers and the proposed pay scale as presented for any new officers promoted in the future. The motion was passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any comments, questions, debate? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, up next, Alderman Neary, Parking Committee.
The Rutland City Parking Committee met on June 16th. Members present, Chair Neary, Alderman Nattori, Alderman Talbot, Commissioner Rotondo. Others present, Mayor Allaire, Alderman Dunges. Chair Neary called the meeting to order at 5:33 p.m. The first item on the agenda was garage and on-street parking rates. This was a preliminary meeting to determine procedure and rate structure for changes to parking rates and how they relate to establishing Park Mobile. Neary began by referencing the parking rate status sheet that was prepared following the Park Mobile meeting. Rutland City's on-street parking rate is half of any other Vermont, New Hampshire, or New York parking rates for similarly sized municipalities researched. In addition, in all other examples, garage parking was cheaper than on-street parking. Currently, garage parking rate is double the on-street parking. The committee agreed that rates should, at a minimum, be equal for both on-street and garage parking, that overall parking rates should remain as low as possible while coming in line with other communities and covering any Park Mobile charges. The parking rate should not deter downtown visitation or cause paid parking avoidance. The committee discussed current rates and potential new rates. The parking garage is currently $45 and $55 a month, and Neary believed this could be closer to $30 a month to encourage higher utilization rates, which remain very low. The hourly rate should remain unchanged. The on-street parking rate is currently between 25 cents and 50 cents per hour, which is less than half of most other communities. NERI believed this could be closer to $1 per hour with a 35-cent surcharge on the first hour for park mobile fees. Commissioner Rotondo stated that the rate of the old meters could not be changed. The current coin meters are in poor condition and no longer fixable, and the committee agreed that the current meters must be replaced with newer digital coin meters. The combination of new digital coin meters and park mobile could have potential to drastically improve the parking fund. Currently, the DPW spends a lot of time fixing both coin and kiosk meters. By changing equipment, including removing kiosks, the DPW could save staff time for parking meter maintenance. New parking meters are a current DPW request for ARPA funds, and the committee agreed to prepare a parking meter transition plan with costs, work scope, and timeline for referral to Finance Committee. There were no motions made by the committee, and the meeting minutes are presented for informational purposes only. Meeting adjourned at 6:10 p.m.
Thank you, Alderman Neary. Any questions? All right, very good, thank you. This brings us to reports of representatives, which we have none. So down to petitions, letters, miscellaneous communication. We have a special event permit request, Art in the Park, August 13th and 14th, Main Street Park, pages 87 through 90 of your packet.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And I'll move to approve the special events permit for Art in the Park for August 13th and 14th from 10 to 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any questions, comments, debate? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We have a second Art in the Park request for October 8th and 9th at Main Street Park.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the special events permit for Art in the Park for October 8th and 9th, Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. Oh, on Saturday and on Sunday from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that has been seconded. Any questions, comments, debate? Hearing and seeing none, will all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And we have a final event request from Let's Protect Reproductive Liberty, July 9th, Main Street Park, noon to 2 p.m., pages 96 through 102 in your packet.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It has been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the special events permit for Abortions Bans Are a Drag, Let's Protect Reproductive Liberty on July 9th in Main Street Park from 11:30 a.m. till 2:30 p.m.
Second.
Yes.
Nothing signed in our permit. Do we have signatures?
We were trying to get an updated insurance certificate. I know that the Attorney Mayor's secretary had that document. I'm not sure if it has been updated. It did contact the applicant. It would be a standard park facility. They did get a sign off by the recreation, but we are missing the attorney's signature, so if you want to approve it, contingent on the attorney's approval of that insurance certificate.
So the maker of the motion and the seconder are okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so it is a motion to approve pending the signed documentation is submitted in time. Is there any questions, discussion, debate on this? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We have nothing for the Board of Control Commissioners. Brings us to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? We have none. So we are at miscellaneous motions, resolutions, and new business. Alderwoman Taddeo.
Yesterday was Juneteenth.
On this day, 157 years ago, the last enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas, were told that President Lincoln had freed them under the Emancipation Proclamation signed 2 years earlier. Yesterday is only our country's second year recognizing Juneteenth as a federal holiday. I believe that Juneteenth should be a citywide holiday. Other cities in Vermont, such as Burlington, are taking this step. This is one way Rutland City can show our dedication to racial equity and justice. So I would like to make a motion to refer to General Committee that Juneteenth be made a citywide holiday in Rutland, Vermont.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, it has been seconded to refer to General Committee, making Juneteenth a citywide holiday. Is there any questions, discussion on that referral? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We are still under miscellaneous motions, resolutions, and new business. Do we have anything else before we kick it to Attorney Bloomer? We have nothing. Attorney Bloomer.
Okay. So actually Phil Woodward is here from the League of Cities and Towns, and he's going to join us as well. So when you hear, I'm actually calling him the passive representative because that's the insurance arm of the LCT. That's him. So motion to find that premature general public knowledge regarding pending litigation to which the city is a party would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the city's strategy in such pending litigation and will include confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Attorney Bloomer.
And a motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the clerk, city attorney, passive representative, police chief, and acting mayor to discuss pending litigation as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E and Title I, Section 313A1F.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right. We'll stand down briefly.